Am I the a-hole for refusing to leave my GF to be with my wife? My wife and I have been separated for 3 years. Before that, we were together for 10 years and married for 9. I loved her very deeply and we were very happy. We had our children who were 12 and 10. After the children, the sex became something I had to beg for. She never initiated it, and I got rejected 99% of the time. At first I would say something, and she would say I was nagging her. Then I asked her to go to marriage counseling, and in one of the sessions she just snapped and said that we have our children now, so what is the point of sex? I give her that she seemed to regret it immediately when she said it, and said it was just a joke because she felt cornered by the therapist. She tried to disprove her statement by paying me attention, but it only took a week for her to go back to her old ways. That's when I decided I will drop the whole subject. I thought when she wanted sex she could talk to me. This was 8 years ago. We never had sex until about a year before our separation. I told my wife that I was unhappy and wanted change and maybe marriage counseling again and sex therapy, but she was dismissive and said that I was nagging and why couldn't I just be happy? She was happy and didn't think we had a problem. I did love her still by then, so it was hard for me to leave, because we often leave when the love is gone. It took me a year to put my affairs in order, and I told my wife that I was leaving her. I found a rental near my house so we can co-parent easier. I started meeting women for casual sex, but 2 years ago I met my GF. She is amazing in every aspect. I realized that I have true feelings for her very early on, but we kept our relationship private for a while. Everything was good and everyone was happy. Now I have made my relationship public, and a week ago I got a call from my mom, and she asked me to visit her. She told me that my wife wants us to start counseling and therapy and reconcile. I wasn't sure what to tell her because I have never told anyone the reasons for our separation. So she called my wife, and my wife was there within 5 minutes. They had planned this. My wife said that she promised to make changes and that she has been thinking about it. She loves me, and we are a family. My mom said I was selfish for throwing my daughters for a woman. Then my mom left to do shopping for dinner, and my wife came on to me and tried to kiss and touch me and said that she was willing to give me what I wanted and start counseling. I backed away because I felt like I was betraying my GF. I got home and I told my GF everything. She didn't say much more than I should make this decision myself. She probably feels guilty for standing in the way children getting their family back. But I don't love my wife, and I don't want her pity or doing things for me. I want my GF who wants me and gives me herself willingly. But now this turned into me choosing a woman over my daughters.
Get the divorce. Your daughters living in 2 happy homes is better than living in 1 unhappy home.
When I was 11, I went to my father and said, in these exact words, "Mom's crazy. I'm leaving. Are you coming with me?" He looked at me silently for a moment and replied, "So you noticed. Took you long enough." He tried to get her to therapy, and she wouldn't go. So we moved out and they divorced. When you're a kid and your parents are divorcing acrimoniously, every damned professional appointed by the court says to you in a sing-song voice like they're talking to a kindergartner, "Now, sometimes mommy and daddy break up and you didn't cause that." They were all shocked when I replied, "Yes, I did, and you can't ever take that away from me." 40 years later, I still think it's the best thing I ever did. My father really loved my mother, but he was, and is, not accepting that the person walking around in her body is not the person he loved and married. So he was very reluctant to divorce her. He did it in the end because the doctor he tried to get her to did talk to him when he went, and the doctor told him that if he didn't divorce her and take me, she'd kill us both, and leaving was the only way he could make her get treatment because she needed to face the world. We left. She didn't kill us. She chose to get crazier rather than get treatment. I've talked it over with Dad, and we agree that that doctor saved our lives.
Parents think kids don't see all the ugly. No matter how much you try to hide it from them, they see it. When I left my kid's dad, my son was 9 and listened to everything Daddy, his hero, told him. He said, "But Mom, I want you with Dad." Before I could even say anything, my daughter, who was 11 at the time, spoke up. She told her brother, "No, you don't want them together. Dad treated Mom horrible and she needed to leave. Things are gonna be so much better now, you just wait and see." I was shocked she understood so much, but also grateful for her wisdom.
Your GF is not standing in the way of your daughter's family. You tried and suggested a lot to save the marriage, but it takes two to fight this, and your wife didn't want to. So not the a-hole. Seems like your wife didn't think you would actually find someone else, and now she's love-bombing you to keep you from divorcing her. Just the timeline of it too, legitimately trying to fix things. The wife not trying to take it seriously or looking. That's newlyweds damn near, and the wife didn't engage or reciprocate any extramarital intimacy. If she didn't get the hint when he moved out, then she's the a-hole. The moment you get rid of your GF, your wife will go back to withholding sex. You should have divorced years ago. Divorce your wife and stay with your GF. Also, sort out your mom, otherwise there will be issues in the future with your GF. You've been separated for 3 freaking years. Why haven't you filed for divorce already? Especially after finding your new girlfriend. File the papers and stop sitting on the fence.
I don't love my wife, and I don't want her pity or doing things for me. I want my GF who wants me and gives me herself willingly. That's all there is. Your ex-wife has shown you who she is. You know, she'll be good for a few weeks, and then it will go back to normal, but with more hostility because you caved. There is no guilt here for you to accept. If she had wanted a marriage with you, she would have gone for help, therapy, etc. Not the a-hole. Absolutely not. You tried to communicate with your wife. You tried to tell her how important this was to you. And she dismissed and minimized your needs and your feelings. And I am a woman telling you you are not the asshole. Sex and touch and physical intimacy are important aspects of marriage. I understand that there are some marriages where the partners are as sexual or demisexual or on a different spectrum in terms of their needs for physical, intimacy, etc. But those partners have worked this out between them. They understand each other. They are okay with where they are at in that regard. In your case, you needed more. You let her know that. And it doesn't sound like you told her you needed sex every single night. I'm sorry guys, that's just not in the cards for most of us. LOL. But it doesn't sound like you had super demanding that you have needs for physical intimacy with the woman you loved. And that's entirely reasonable. Is not reasonable is that when your spouse tells you they have needs that aren't being met and wants to do counseling and wants to work on it and wants to find what is the cause of this issue. And the spouse withholding the affection or withholding the communicator, withholding whatever refuses to listen or acknowledge or work on anything, then yes, it is going to kill the relationship. It is going to kill the love. It is going to hurt that person to the point where they will check out. It may be mentally. It may be physically. They may actually leave. But the fact is, your wife's actions were not okay. If she was having a problem with something, she needed to communicate it. If she needed something else, she needed to communicate it. You cannot make a marriage with one person only trying. I literally just responded to a woman having an issue with her husband, not listening, not respecting what she was saying, not attempting in any way to make things better, and only offering to go to therapy when she filed for divorce. And I told her that I had read an interesting statistic a few days ago. And it was that in general, women are the ones who try to fix things before they leave. Men are the ones who try to fix things after they leave. And therapists actually say that again in general, this is true. So when your wife had a spouse who was emotionally maturing enough to see that there was a problem and try to work with her to fix it because he wanted to save the relationship, and she was the one who refused, it is just doubly dismaying. Because your wife had the unicorn husband. The husband who was willing to listen. Who was trying to understand what was happening. Who was willing to work on it however he needed to. And she threw it away. And before everyone comes for me, I know that a lot of you guys out there are getting so much better about this. That you don't want the marriage or the family life that your parents had where it seemed like communication just was non-existent. Like people were unhappy, but stayed, or people needed things and never had their needs met. So like I said, generally speaking, that is how it is still working. That women are trying to fix the issue before they leave, but once they leave, they're done. And that is often the wake-up call for guys who literally say they had no idea anything was wrong, even though they had a spouse telling them for months, and sometimes years, that they couldn't go on with whatever it was. So no, sir, you're not the asshole. You guys have been separated all this time, and everything was great as long as you didn't have a life? Fuck that shit, and your mother was wrong to get involved at all.
If you don't deal with this situation quickly, you're likely to lose that girlfriend. My state requires you be separated for a year, and I don't know of any state that requires longer than that. Unless you want to go back to that same exact relationship, get the divorce going and move on.
I'm surprised she hasn't left already, to be honest. Imagine your new partner dragging their feet to divorce for no apparent reason. It must be incredibly hurtful wondering if there was, actually, a reason he didn't want it after all this time.
Not the a-hole. Bait and switch alert. If you dumped your GF and went back to your wife, you'd be back to no sex within weeks. Your misery didn't matter to her until shit got real with the divorce. Go through with it. You can co-parent with her, and she can find her own person. Not the a-hole. Getting back together won't do good to anyone. Not even your kids, believe it or not. You are not choosing between your children and your girlfriend. It's a choice between a dysfunctional relationship and one in which you're happy. Children, especially girls, know when their parents are unhappy and often prefer divorce. Better to have happy single parents than to live in a home where the lead players are miserable. Why has your wife not pushed for reconciliation in the past 3 years? It's because she was happy, but she will likely pull the same thing she did before. Improve for a week, then go back to the way that makes her happy. It seems that she is asexual, which is okay, but it's unfair for her to force you, with a different sexuality, to conform to hers. Or vice versa. One of you, perhaps both, will be unhappy if you get back together. You need to go ahead and get a divorce. And your wife needs to find someone who shares her sexuality. Not the a-hole.
Not the a-hole. Your wife's actions are too little too late, and she's doing this for herself, not for you. If I were you, I'd also feel disappointed in your mother. She seems to be in on this and set you up. I'd crack on with the divorce, because the longer you put it off, the more they will try to change your mind. The fact they're deceiving you to try to change your mind speaks volumes about how your future would be, in my opinion. You're not the a-hole. You did everything you could to make it work for longer than most people would. It's been years, so I'm sure your kids are used to your current routine and won't see it as you not choosing them. It's better to be a happy parent than the alternative. You've been put in an unfair position, and it sounds like your GF is a good person who loves you.
You don't have to be married to the other parent to be a good father. Being in a relationship you are sure to be unhappy in will not be beneficial to your children. Your wife was fine with the arrangement of you being out of the home and co-parenting. The only reason that changed is she sees you are clearly moving on. You are not responsible for her happiness. You are responsible for your own happiness and your children's well-being. How are your children going to benefit being in a home with parents that no longer love each other? You are framing this improperly. You've already been separated for 3 years. The damage to your children, if any, has been done. Getting back with your wife and being unhappy will likely cause them more damage. Being happy with your girlfriend will be a good demonstration for your daughters. Your ex-wife is jealous. She is trying to sabotage your new relationship. I would not go back. If your mom bugs you, tell her the truth. Do not leave your girlfriend.
Not the a-hole for deciding to leave your marriage given the circumstances, but I don't see how that means you're choosing your GF over your daughters. Are you not already an actively involved parent? Sounds like you are. Is your ex threatening to keep your children from you? If so, you need a custody order along with a divorce. Oh, and tell your mother to mind her own business, too.
Your wife will put in the work just long enough for your girlfriend to go away, then return to her old ways right after. Then do it again the next time you have a girlfriend. And instead of looking out for the kids' best interest, she's using them as pawns to make you feel guilty. So in my opinion, this woman is a piece of work. Not the a-hole. You are not choosing anyone over your daughters. You are choosing a woman that cares for you over one that only wants you because you have moved on. Your daughters are still a priority to you, but they are not on one of the sides in this case. I'm a child of divorce, and I promise you, parents in an unhappy marriage are not the best parents. The idea that you should stay for the kids is wrong. A happy parent is a better parent than an unhappy one. Don't go back to a relationship that you know doesn't work. Keep being happy with your girlfriend.
Under no circumstances should you give in to anything she says, and yes, they most definitely planned this together. If you go back to her, she'll more than likely go back to how she was before once she thinks she has you in the bag, and before then you'll always know that she doesn't really want to have sex with you, and it'll feel like you forced yourself on her one way or another, even if she wants it. That being said though, it is time to act now.